What is up, guys? It is the Sportster Bradley Walker, and welcome to the Walker Report, part of NGSC Sports. Guys, remember the website is ngscsports.com for all your current sports content. We are also part of Stillman Multimedia Sports, the Game Winner Sports Network, Mancini Media, and the Sports Alliance of America. Welcome in, guys. Happy Thursday to you. We have a very special guest on. Mitchell Belacone is an author of a book about Lance Armstrong. And, guys, he is coming to us live from Argentina. That's right, not from the United States. He is abroad, but he will be joining us here in a few minutes. We want to thank Nicole Felice last week for joining us on here. I'm going to try to get a chance to play golf with her in the near future. Hopefully she doesn't kick my butt too bad. But anyway, guys, we have a couple sponsors on the show. The first sponsor is creatingzenspaces.com. It is the local choice in St. Petersburg, Florida for house cleaning, organization, decluttering, and pet sitting. It's about finding the peace with you and adding comfort to your life. And guys, remember, Zen Spaces begins with you. Be kind to yourself and one another. We are also sponsored by funwags.com. Born from a near tragedy when the Funwag mascot had a reaction from a store brand treat, but we were fueled to succeed with treats made from 3 to 5 ingredients you can pronounce. The Funwags mascots invite you to try funwags.com because our fur babies deserve the best. Head over to fun-wags.com to buy any of the great treats that they have for animals. And by the way, guys, they're made for dogs, cats, and rodents. That's right, all of the above. All right, guys, let me go ahead and bring in. I only have one co-host. Gerald, what's going on, buddy? What happened? They bail on us, or what the heck's going on?
I guess they did. I don't know.
Okay, well, you know what? Then I guess it's a two-man show in with our guest. So that's – oh, nope, there's Adam right there. Okay. So real quick, what's going on with Lou? Did he have a meltdown, or what's happening with him?
He got hacked.
Oh, he got hacked. Okay. So it's nothing major, right?
No.
I hope not.
He's overreacting about it.
He does
As he's wanting to do.
He does that from time to time.
He
Yeah,
does. He does.
he does
And
that.
I told him several times. I said the best way to keep that from happening is change your password every so often.
Every 90 days.
Yep, that's
That's
a
why-
good one.
That's why I change mine at least once a month.
All right, guys. Well, our guest is on here, so I'm going to bring him on. He's very cool. I've been talking to him for about the last half hour off the air. We actually were eating pregame meal before we came on, but here is Mitchell Belacone. Welcome in, sir.
Hey,
Hello, Mitchell.
thank you.
It's finally nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you guys. Nice to meet you.
And guys, he is the author of the book Lance Armstrong Crucifies Get Doped, Other Cycling and Non-Cycling Stories. That is the book. Did I pronounce that correctly?
No, Lance Armstrong's Crucifiers Get Dropped.
Oh, I got you. See, I read the title wrong. There you go.
Dropped is a cycling term, like you lose the peloton. So
Okay.
Now, did you ever get a chance to meet Lance?
no, I didn't ever meet Lance, but I was living in New York City, and I used to ride my bike in Central. I lived close to Central Park, and I would ride during the day. The 6.2 mile loop was mostly open, and I probably rode 3 days a week for an hour and a half. And then one day I didn't ride, and I read in the paper he was riding all by himself in Central Park at the same time I normally go. So I guess I just miss getting to hassle him as a fanboy.
Well, I was just going to ask that question too, Mitchell. Are you a fan of his despite what happened? I mean, are you still? I mean, are you still? I mean, a lot of people jumped off his bandwagon once everything went down.
Well, that's pretty much why I wrote the book, is because what he did is what everybody else did. Let me start going back to your original question. Am I a fan of Lance Armstrong? Yeah, I was a huge fan when he was cycling. Now in his personal life, I really don't follow him too much. But I'm a fan of any American cyclist, and it gets a little, I hate to throw politics into this, but it gets a little deep. I remember watching an early Tour de France before Americans had competed in it, and there was a French cyclist they were interviewing, and he was asked, how come no Americans are doing well in this? And he stated, maybe they don't have the heart. So it kind of struck me the wrong way, considering it's not ingrained. It wasn't in. We had great cyclists in America, but it wasn't ingrained in the culture and near as popular in Europe. So it also hit me that this guy's country surrendered in 6 weeks to the Nazis, and that my father crawled across Europe for the duration of the war. And my father came back. Boy, did I take this out of cycling in a hurry.
That's okay.
My father came back with a stress syndrome before it was diagnosed as that, and had issues with it from fighting the whole duration of the war. So for this guy to say Americans don't have the heart, anytime in America, it's ingrained in me now. Anytime an American cyclist does good, I'm up out of my chair. So that's how it started for me, pretty much.
I like that.
And to what you were saying, as far as what he did, they were all doing it. In his 7 Tour de France victories, there's 3 places, first, second, and third, obviously. And of the 27 finishers, or how's my math? 7, 14, 21. Of the 21 finishers, only 1 wasn't tainted by a drug scandal, which means they couldn't give the yellow jersey to anybody else because they were all drugged. And so he did what everybody else did, but he just did it better.
Gotcha.
So the press got a hold of him, and as they do, and they like to attack. And he had a kind of rough personality, but where in the UCI rule book, which is the Union Cyclist International, show me where in the in the rule book that you need a charm school diploma to get a lesser penalty than the other athletes.
So you're saying, so in your opinion, he was scapegoated then?
Oh, well, certainly. Look, the media's job is to sell advertising, and once they got a hold of a champion, they built them up, and then they took them down. What irritated me was a lot was missed. Basically, he did what everybody else did. He was a harsh leader, and anybody that tried to expose him got blasted. But that was the nature of the sport. I mean, this was happening long before him. That's why these scandals weren't busted. The year before Lance Armstrong won his first Tour de France, the tour was in shambles. There was a French team that got busted for drugs, and the peloton stopped 2 times in protest. Teams quit the race. It was really a disaster. He lit the sport back up. They tend to forget about that. So, and more importantly, was his charity, which got the highest rating of any sport athlete's charity, raised $500 million for towards cancer victims. So you never hear anything about that. And then when he got knocked out of it, the charity went to pretty much close to nothing. So he's a pretty dynamic guy, obviously, and hard-headed. I certainly wouldn't want to come up against that guy in any way, shape, or form. But he got a bum rap. They love to just make a spectacle out of him, is what they did.
Yeah, I think what it's sounding like to me is that and forgive me for not having read your book yet, but what it sounds like to me is everyone else was doing it, and so to be competitive, you feel like you have to do. If everyone else is going to break the rules, then I might as well too.
You said it perfectly. He absolutely had to. If you didn't do what everybody else was doing, you couldn't compete. So you take a kid that's 23 years old and he realizes this. Look, I can't even, there's no point in me racing unless I'm doing what everybody else is doing. So he does it. And then there's really no way for him to get out of it without blighting his career, because then he becomes a drug cheat. So he was forced along this path, and he was introduced to it by team managers, team doctors, and if he backs out of it, then his charity goes to hell, and the whole myth of Armstrong goes to hell.
And he really didn't blow up, and you know what, and maybe, so correct me if I'm wrong, but he didn't blow up as a cyclist until he comes back from the cancer. And that's what really put him into the cultural. He was big in cycling, but what takes him over the top is his. He gets diagnosed with cancer. He survives the cancer. He comes back. He wins again, and then he wins again.
Well, what you're saying is the amazing part of his story. He had won won a world championship and some big races, but he never won the Tour de France until he came back from drugs. And in his book, he tells when he's coming back from the drugs, he's going up a hill and he thinks he's doing great and he's coming back and he's healthy. And then he's on his racing bike and a middle-aged lady on a mountain bike passes him. So it was a really rough road to come back for the guy. And weirdly enough, even with or without the drugs, it's possible he might not have ever won a Tour de France without the cancer, the irony of it, because he lost a lot of weight. And in the Tour de France, the time differences, cumulative time differences, are normally made up in the mountain stages. And that's all about weight. These guys starve themselves to be competitive in the mountains. So that kind of helped them in a way.
Kind of similar to what they do at UFC when they cut weight. They don't eat. They wear those sweat things and they sweat weight down to make weight. So yeah, I guess in a way it was kind of like he was trying to lose weight to be faster. If that makes a lot of sense.
Well, they have to watch their diets if they want to compete in the Tour de France. They have team nutritionalists and this and that. But yeah.
No, go ahead, bud.
I was just gonna say, do you think the Lance Armstrong the scandal hurt cycling in America? Do you think it?
I don't know how much it hurt it. He's more responsible for building it up than anybody. I mean, there was Greg LeMond was the first American to win Tour de France's, and he won 3 of them. He had a pretty good story because he came back from a hunting accident with like 100 lead pellets in him and came back and won. But he retired from the sport when I think he came back one year and he was all of a sudden he's in 30th place and he knew it was the drug. So he bailed out of the sport. But I lost track of your original question. Oh, did he hurt the sport in the long run? I don't think so. I think he brought a lot of attention to it. And what is that saying? Any press is good press.
As long as they don't spell your name wrong.
Pardon?
As long as they don't spell your name wrong.
There you go. For a guy that didn't read the book, you're asking some pretty perfect questions from me. I'm flowing with them.
Well, it's just, I try to give my, it was something we had a guest on last week and something we were talking about. It's giving our guests kind of general knowledge questions and trying to open the floor up. We want to hear from you. Like, if we didn't, we could sit here and talk amongst ourselves, so.
Well, thanks for having me. And Bradley was awfully patient. I canceled on him 4 or 5 times.
Okay. All right.
I had a double. I've got an autistic kid that sleeps where he wants to sleep and how he wants to sleep. So he's 5 years old. He was coughing in my face, and his flu turned into a double pneumonia for me. So I recommend it highly. If you're having trouble sleeping, I slept for a month straight.
Mitchell, I have
in there, but
I have an autistic nephew who's going to be 11 this year, so I follow you.
Yeah.
You
know, go ahead.
On the scale of awful to really awful, I think I'll take the insomnia over the double pneumonia.
Truthfully, I found it relaxing. Other than the first 2 days, I'm not going to describe to you some of the symptoms, pretty disgusting. But other than the first 2-3 days, it wasn't. I just felt relaxed. I didn't have to worry about business things or anything else. I just wanted to do was sleep. I have a dog. I found a dog walker that I had fired a year ago, and I told his mother, I said, he's kind of young. Let's try him again in a year. Luckily, a year to the date, I got the pneumonia. I called him up. Okay, let's give him another chance.
Every time I would message Mitchell, he'd say, "Okay, now this week I'm coughing." I go, "Okay, I don't want to ask a lot of questions if you don't feel good, and coughing, you can't control it." So then then the next week it was like, "Hey, I got double pneumonia." I'm like, "Okay, just rest. We'll get you on." And then it happened to go this week. I'm going, let me message him. And you won't believe this. It took me like 2 hours to find the message that I had. I'm like, where is he? Is he on Facebook? Is he on Instagram? Is he on LinkedIn? I can't find this guy. And I go scroll down. I'm like, oh, maybe it's this guy. I click the button, and there's the one. I'm like, there it is. Okay, let me message Mitchell. He's like, I'm good. I'm like, all right, cool. We'll bring you on this week. Awesome sauce. It worked out beautifully. So there you go.
One of these guys wasn't so hep on tech. That was my biggest fears of the show, is I'm going to goof up and not be able to get on because I'm from another generation, so I'm a tech moron. In college, the computer took up a room.
Guys, he messaged me earlier in the day. He's like, "Can we get on like at 7?" And I'm like, that's kind of dinner time for me. Let's make it 7:30. And I got on here at 7:25. He was already on here already, and we were eating dinner together, talking. I had to leave because my dad was fixing something for me, so I had to leave real quick. But
I got on early out of fear. After canceling on you 4 times, I don't want to come on and have a blank screen and screw the whole thing up here. One quick thing: the book is a collection of short stories, and the Armstrong story is about 15 pages. It's kind of a rant, a little bit aggressive. To prove my point, I try to show the bad in everybody. It's bringing everybody, that he's not the worst of us. Plenty of people in our culture are a lot worse. But there's all kinds of stories in there. And there's one, you were mentioning UFC. There's one, Anatomy of a New York Street Fight, which has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coming into a New York street fight. Anatomy of a New York street fight is in there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Nate Diaz, isn't he from New York? Isn't he a New Yorker?
I think he's from Stockton, California.
Who's from Cali? Because he's got a fight against one of the Paul brothers this upcoming Saturday. And
who are you guys picking?
I'm taking Diaz. It's his reign.
I hope Diaz wins, but that guy, what's his face, the YouTube guy, has been doing nothing but boxing, and he's got a big punch.
Yeah.
So he's got a good right hand.
Yeah, enormous right hand. So I'd love to see Diaz win. I like him and his brother, the Stockton Slap.
Yeah, and he's one of, and Nate's been around for a long time in UFC. He's a veteran. He's not one of those new bloods. He's been around. I know he's taken.
15 years?
Yeah,
I read that today. 15 years.
15 years. He's taken a beating in the media about comments he makes, and I think he's gone back and forth a couple times with Dana White on money. But I guess no matter what sport or what you do for a living, if you feel that you're not getting enough and somebody else is, you should go and say, okay, hey, why is this fighter getting more money than me when I've been here longer than he or she has? So I guess it's
And I've done more.
Yeah, or more. Correct. Yeah.
I think that was what Nate's problem with the money was, is he was making Dana millions and millions of dollars, and other fighters who weren't fighting nearly as much and weren't drawing as big of crowds were still out earning him. I think that's what Nate's big problem was, if I remember right. It's all kind of 2018, which was a long. Yeah, I've slept since then, so.
Yeah. Funny, oddly enough, my sports career took off in my late 40s and 50s. I had done a few sports. So I moved back from South Carolina to New York in my late 50s, and I had watched UFC 1 and 2. So I go in the yellow pages and I look up the name Gracie. And Renzo Gracie had opened a school in New York. So I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at 43 years old. And now I'm 67, and I'll still go in whenever I can. So I knew a lot of those guys coming up. Matt Serra was a teacher. He was a purple belt at the time. He was a teacher of the day class. Rodrigo Gracie. They're real characters, those guys.
That was back in.
Go ahead, bud.
Oh, I was just going to say that was back in the day when UFC was in it. So that would have been, what, the early 90s? So 93, 94?
Yeah. Trying to get me to do math is a mistake. I would say, yeah, it started maybe early 90s and mid 90s in that era.
Yeah, well, that was the wild, wild west days of UFC, where they had like two rules: you couldn't kill anyone, you couldn't poke anyone in the eye. Other than that, it was free game.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because the UFC blew up in what, the 2010 area? What did it blow up where it is now?
I think they give credit to the UFC blowing up to that fight on what's the TV show where they go in a house?
Ultimate Fighter?
Big Brother?
Ultimate Fighter.
Ultimate Fighter.
There was one fight between, again, I'm mush brain when it comes to names, but two guys that had a knockdown, drag out brawl, and it wasn't pay-per-view. This was what everybody could see, and from that point on, the graph just went like straight up.
I want to say it was like 2000. I want to say 2007. It was, because I don't remember offhand when Dana White gets there. When Joe Rogan and Dana White, they're brought in because Dana White comes in, buys up the UFC. I want to say 2005. It may have been earlier than that, but it was somewhere in there. I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay.
I don't want to interrupt.
Joe Rogan and Joe Rogan becomes their number one commentator, and then Dana brings, because there's a lot of controversy, because I remember this. There's a lot of controversy in New York, and New York was fixing to ban UFC because of how violent it was.
They did. New York banned it for a long time.
And like I said, it was the Wild Wild West, where everything but like eye gouging and and groin shots were legal. And Dana White comes in and civilizes it, and that's why it ended up out in Nevada. That's the big reason why so many of the fights take place in Nevada and in Las Vegas, is because that was the one place he could get it to be sanctioned.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it stood to reason that they had to put some rules to it. Otherwise, people would get maimed worse than they do. One thought I had on Dana White, because I like the guy. I mean, some people you see they're doing a job and you think, hey, they're right for that job. But if there's one person in this world that I think was born to do what they do, it's Dana White. He absolutely loves it, throws all his energy into it. You watch the guy and you just think, man, this guy was cut out for this. And the Ferretta brothers who had the money, they were casino owners who put him in. They said something that I thought was very intelligent when they hired Dana White, and they said, if we would have just taken a normal executive out of out of some company and had him do this, it wouldn't have happened. We needed this guy or a guy like him, So I thought that was pretty intelligent of them to think and say something like that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did he not? He sold the UFC, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, the Ferretta brothers sold it, and
okay.
I think they sold it to a famous talent agency in Hollywood. So all these guys, it's very corporate now. So all these guys, when they're fighting for their share, because they don't get near the share a boxer does or of the revenue of a lot of sports, they're fighting corporate America to get their pound of flesh out of it.
I got into it probably in the 2010, 11-ish area where it started to be on ESPN. They were showing highlights. And if you go on as many sports apps as I have on my phone, and I have the UFC app on my phone as well, but it would pop up and you'd be reading about these fights. And some of these fighters, obviously some of them have passed away. Some of them are retired or teachers now. But Dana, like you said, Mitchell, Dana White is the perfect commissioner. If you want to consider him a commissioner, like a Roger Goodell or somebody like that, he's the perfect fit for what he does. He doesn't take any shit from anybody. He no. Fighter, not a media person. I've been in Florida all my life, born and raised in the state of Florida. And when we had the pandemic hit, he got clearance to fight in Jacksonville. So how cool was that? He's like, well, you know what? I'm not going to promise that my fighters aren't going to get COVID, but we're going to fight and we're going to put entertainment on the TV because everybody can't do anything. You can't go anywhere. You can't go out. So I'm going to put something on the TV. And it worked out so well in Jacksonville. Then they went to, Fight Island in what's the country they went to?
Saudi Arabia?
No. Dang it.
Abu Dhabi?
Abu Dhabi. Thank you.
Yeah.
Abu Dhabi. Yep. So
I'm just gonna keep throwing out countries here. It'll be one of them eventually.
I had mixed emotions about them, because the media got me paranoid with all the COVID stuff too, and I had mixed emotions. But once they did those fights, I was like, oh, cool, we're back alive again.
Mm-hmm.
I really got into it because I'd moved to Buenos Aires in 2003, and the UFCs were free. So because I'm not going to lay out $70 for a card every fight, every fight card, or
yeah.
I guess most people clip them off the internet in one form or another. But now they're finally starting on the big cards. I only get the preliminaries.
Yeah. Well, the preliminaries are like ESPN, and then if you wanna watch the rest of them, you gotta pay for them.
Oh, okay. So you get them for free too.
Yeah.
Talking about the Diaz brothers, they do triathlons. They put a lot of miles on bikes.
Okay. Did not know that.
I'm not sure of both of them, but I'm pretty sure Nate does.
Triathlons are tough because that's running, biking, and swimming. That's tough. That's tough.
Yeah, the level, the amount of training to do for that to even begin to be competitive is off the charts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as a huge sports fan and dabbling in some of the, dabbling in sports and hobby, as a hobbyist, playing a lot of backyard baseball growing up, I have the utmost respect for anyone who's an athlete, whether you be like the 112th guy who runs a 6-hour marathon, you've still accomplished that. You've accomplished more than I could ever think about doing.
Yeah. I don't think I was ever really great in any one sport, but the training kept me in shape because I'm 67 and I've stayed healthy with the exception of this double pneumonia. I credit it mostly to just doing a lot of different sports. Now with different surgeries, I've reduced myself to pulling elastic cords off the doorknob and working with the dog.
Well, guys, before you guys came on, Mitchell was telling me that he played football one time. He was asking me, so we could talk the NFL because tonight's the Hall of Fame game between the Jets and the Browns in Canton. But he was telling me that he played football for a little while, and then he had to have both his hips replaced. So I'll let him talk about that.
The Hall of Fame game, I was saying, oh man, the timing of this to watch my Jets and watch the Zach Lackattack Wilson get his shot. But I can start it from the beginning without skipping a beat. But okay, getting back to me playing football. So I came down to Argentina. I was playing pickup basketball, and it was another American, and he mentioned something about an American football game. Well, they had a 5-team league, and Argentina was playing Panama. So I went to the game with this guy, and the guys were big, a lot of ex-rugby players, but they were kind of clueless. Like there was an onside kick, and none of them went for it. And Panama had American coaches, and it was far more developed in Panama. So I'm on the sideline screaming at the players. I'm cursing at Panama, just getting all riled up because they're bullying Argentina, which I had fallen in love with. So I called the president of the league and I said, I want to play. And I got a hold of his number. He says, well, how old are you? I think I was like 48 at the time. He says, oh, you want to coach? My Spanish wasn't that great. No, I want to play. So went back and forth, and finally I had to go through a 6-week training camp and get into the league. And then being, like I said, they could hit, they could run, they could do a lot of things, but nobody had any quarterback skills. Not to say I never played any level of football except pickup football, and I always played quarterback. So all of a sudden I'm a star quarterback with uniforms, leagues. It was like a fantasy camp that dropped in my lap. And after 1 year in the league, they wanted me to start a 6-team. And I think they were pretty evenly spaced out, and they wanted a team to pad their records. So they kept changing the rules on me, who I could get. But I got a guy that had been a receiver at Brown, a lineman that had been with Army, and then I filled in from there because I put an article in the paper recruiting players saying personality not important, antisocial behavior more than accepted, criminal no problem. There's violent. We worship violence, so I got to filled out the team that way, and we ended up winning 10 straight and lost in the finals like New England in their perfect season.
Now, Mitchell, you said you're a Jets fan. How do you feel about Aaron Rodgers coming over?
Well, I tell you the truth, I didn't like it because I wasn't a fan of his personality too much with the kooky crystals and the whole thing about him and celebrity courting and giving up probably a first round for him. But I'm kind of warming up to the idea because there's nobody really else at his level. Hopefully he's got a year or two left. And the fact that he dropped $35 million that they could recruit other players and maybe another running back, all of a sudden I went 180 on the guy. I said, this guy's got something to prove. He wants to win. So 180, I'm all for him now. I root for him, which I would do anyhow because I have no choice but to be a Jet fan. My first Jet game, they were the Titans, I think, in 65.
Mm-hmm. And the whole AFL.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a Cowboy fan, so.
I remember going to a Cowboy Jets game at Shea Stadium, and I think the Cowboys beat them 52-10.
And we play the Jets. I think it's second week of the season.
Yeah. I like Prescott. He throws darts. That guy's good. I think if everybody around him is good, he's great.
Well, we see.
Yeah.
No, and also too, you have the Jets in the AFC East, which I think you have three good teams. The Patriots are a question mark, obviously, because last year Belichick didn't have a real offensive coordinator, and now you got Mac Jones in his third year of his contract since they drafted him. And obviously, just like with when Andrew Luck replaced Peyton Manning in Indianapolis, you got big shoes to fill. And, you have Brian Zappi, who came up last year and played well when Mac was hurt.
Yeah.
But I think, the division is going to come down to the Jets, Bills, and Dolphins. I don't know. Jalen Ramsey got hurt. That's going to hurt the Dolphins a little bit on defense.
Did you hear who they signed to replace him?
No,
Eli Apple.
Eli Apple?
Yeah.
The former Giant cornerback. Okay.
Yeah.
Or safety. Yeah.
And
Eli
Apple is the worst that you could pick up.
I've never rooted against the Jets, but if they play Miami and what's his face is out, Tua, I can't pronounce his name, Tua, whatever you pronounce it. And Mike White is starting for Miami. I'm rooting for Miami. I love that guy. He was gutsy. The team liked him as a second stringer, but he's not a super mobile guy. And they had no offensive line. The whole offensive line was shuffled 12 times. So I couldn't blame him. But super gutsy, got hurt a couple times, and he took part of the rap for them not being great. Dallas drafted Mike White, I believe.
Yeah.
My best friend Mitchell, who I had to move because he's moving back up to the east coast of Florida. He's a big Jets fan, and that's what he said. He goes, I was so mad when they traded Mike White signed a contract, and he goes, now watch him when he plays against the Jets. Watch him if Tua gets hurt, watch him beat us. And I'm like, well, maybe we'll be out to prove you guys wrong. Like, hey, you got rid of me. Fine, I'm gonna go someplace else and win.
He's got a brother in arms with me. I'm 100% that way. Miami gave him like $17 million.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what? We've overcome my fear. I was fearful that, I get wacky trying to sell a book with kooky politics, and why are they picking on Armstrong? Well, we didn't get into that, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, if you want to know more about his kooky politics, you'll have to read the book.
I was gonna say, yeah. I was gonna say, you want to read it? Yeah.
Well, you know what happened?
It's on Amazon. Go on there and get it, guys. I mean, go there and get it. I saw it today.
You know what happened? I was writing for this British magazine called Conquista Cycling Quarterly, and we were talking about Armstrong.
Wow, what a catch!
Don't tell me, no spoilers. So they wanted a little bit of a radical piece pro Armstrong because we both liked Armstrong. So I wrote it for them. They published it, and then I said, okay. I got a lot. First thing that I ever wrote that got a lot of attention. So I said, when I do another book, I'm going to make that the cover story and trade on Armstrong's name. And I even made it more radical, to help sell the book. And plus, again, you had asked me, given me a clue on some of the questions. Why did I write the book? And it was just the inequity of the whole situation, number one. And I never thought about Armstrong reading it. I sent it to someone pretty close to him, very close to him, and he said Armstrong's going to read it. So, and he really liked it. But more importantly, Armstrong's an adult guy. What bugged me was all this bullshit that went down. I'm allowed to use that word?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. All that nonsense that went down, that his teenage son is having to live through this with kids at school saying your father's a cheat. More importantly than Armstrong's reading it, I was the back of my head, I was just hoping his kid reads it. His son reads it.
Mitchell, I was going to ask you real quick, is there any chance that I could get an autographed copy from you?
Yeah, but the thing is, you'd have to wait. As soon as I'm next back in the States, or a friend of mine is going to the States. Yes, because I have 3 copies here with me in Argentina. It would cost me $150 to
Ooh.
send.
That's okay. Yeah, I'll wait to you. Yeah, just stay in touch with me on Facebook.
Yeah,
you can always come back on here. I mean, I'm not saying you have to go right now, but as soon as you come back in the States, because I had another guy that I had on my show before. I cover USF football, South Florida in Tampa.
Right.
And he played on the basketball team, the original basketball team for USF, and he sent me a copy of his book autographed. So I always if I have an author on, I always like to ask if there's any way that I could get an autographed copy.
Happy to do it. You got my guarantee, but don't hold your breath. Give it some time.
No problem. No problem. No
problem. We waited 5 weeks to have you on the show. I think we can wait a little while longer for an autographed copy of the book.
Yeah.
I was really looking forward to finding out what your book was all about and then learning more about you. And so,
well, here, let me give me a second to pimp it. I'll tell you. I'll read the chapters. There's the book.
Very nice.
Okay, Lance Armstrong's crucifiers got dropped, and it's not comedy, but there's some wit to it. Miles into Milestones, a bicycle family saga, and that's important events that took place on the bike in my life, but it's comedy. Bathers in Buenos Aires Fountain of Youth. That's a story of a group of octogenarian cyclists that still keep up with the peloton at 40 kilometers an hour. And their answer why? They never stopped. Then there's 2 dramas on my way to hell, which is a story, a little bit autobiographical, I hate to admit. It's a play within a play in a short story form. And it's a guy going to Lincoln Center on a date, but he wants to get the number of girl in front of him. So the whole story, how he's plotting to drop a card, hand her a card, but everything conspires against him. And there's Anatomy of a New York Street Fight, which was I was coming out of jiu-jitsu with a buddy of mine, and he gets out of the cab, and a bike messenger going the wrong way comes to a short stop and starts a fight with him. So it was a brawl in the street. Actually, two fights. Mine, I'm going to call fictional later. And then Bud knows
for legal purposes.
It comes out as comedy, mostly it's that. Bud's Nose is a love story between a dog, a woman, and a guy. Not graphic, just a lost lottery. I'll just if I'm rambling, I'll just do one more. I cured skirmish. The story behind that was a skirmish is a made-up disease, and I'll tell you why it's made up. My school, 10 years after graduating college, they wanted money, and I didn't care for the school. I'm not giving you money. They said, what do you want to add to 15 years after graduating? What do you want to add to the school newspaper? And I said, say Mitchell Cohen is a assistant manager trainee at the local McDonald's franchise. So they printed that, and I guess everybody that read it must have thought he always acted stupid. Maybe he really was stupid. So then after that, when they called me up asking for money, I'd make up another story. I said Mitchell Belacone is a professional bowler with a 218 average and sponsored by other grips, I forget. They printed that. Then I became a munitions expert for the French Foreign Legion. All this stuff. So finally, I had a friend that's a research doctor that happened to be in New York, and he's head of the World Organization to Research Scleroderma. It's a rare disease you don't want to get. You kind of dry up from the inside out. So
that sounds horrible.
So it's the worst. So anyhow, I'm I have my friend who I live on the ground floor in New York. My friend's on the 6th floor. So I bring my phone with me because I had told the school to call me back. We were watching a football game with a bunch of people at his house. And they the school calls me and the phone actually reaches me, and I start launching into a story that Mitchell Belacone is a research doctor, and him and a partner have patented a vaccine for scleroderma. And then I catch myself because I'm thinking, oh my God, what happens if somebody really does have scleroderma? And I say sklermish, right? So a rare moment of intelligence. So then my host wife says to me, my mother has scleroderma. So I'm like, oh, damn, did I put my foot in my mouth? So anyhow, the bottom line, I said, look, obviously there's no cure for it, but my friend's going to be in town. He can fill your mom in with the latest research on it. So they got together. The mother called me screaming. I'm like, oh my God, on the phone. I'm thinking, what did I do? I don't know my friend's bedside manner. What happened? It turns out she didn't have scleroderma. Her Park Avenue doctor there was like a 25% false positive on the test they had. And I told you I ramble. I warned you.
No problem. No, that's okay.
So there's a 25% false positive, and she was one of them. Her Park Avenue doctor gave her a bad diagnosis. So that was my scleroderma story. That's what that whole story is about. That.
Mitchell, you were talking earlier about rugby. I'm a rugby fan, and the World Cup is happening later this year in France. I like the game. I've been to some college games locally. I haven't seen a nation game or anything like that, but I have seen college rugby. I think rugby is a very fascinating game. Being that you can't throw the ball forward, it's only to the side or to the back. And I think, if you play the full 15 or you play sevens is really fast. But I think what makes rugby so great is around the world is every country's different. Some of them are speed guys. Some of them like the All Blacks in New Zealand. And I'm a Springbok fan from South Africa. But, I mean, it comes down to where you come from and depending on what kind of rugby you play. So, yeah.
I got a quick rugby story for you.
Okay.
The guy I went to, I was always in rehab with a therapist for my football injuries. So one day I was in, and my trainer was the trainer for the Pumas, the Argentine rugby team that's pretty high up in the world rankings.
Mm-hmm.
One day I'm talking to a smaller rugby player, kidding around with him, and I say, why is it that rugby players don't use helmets and pads? And he said something like, because we're tougher or something. And I said, maybe it's because you don't hit hard enough to need them. So, the trainer got a laugh out of that. And every time I was in there, he'd pick out a rugby player for me to say it to. And then I'm like, just joking. One day, there's a guy this monster guy. He leads me into a room like the rugby player. He looks like Frankenstein because he's got all those electrodes going into him that therapists have. Little did I know he was like the enforcer for the team. So he has me do my routine and ask the guy, how come rugby players don't use helmets, right? And as I'm doing the same stupid lines with this guy, the guy starts getting up like Frankenstein out of the bed, mad, pulling up the things. I'm like, I'm running out of there. And this place isn't padded like a jiu-jitsu gym.
Argentina is ranked 7th in the world, and they're the number 1 team in Pool D later on this year in the World Cup. So
how many teams are in the World Cup?
There are, I believe, 12.
Okay.
Let me see here real quick. So I'm sorry, there is 20. I'll read to you the pools. Pool A is the host team. You have France, Italy, Namibia, New Zealand, and that's the All Blacks are insane.
Yeah, right.
Uruguay is in that one. In Pool B, Ireland is the number 1 team in the world right now. Romania, Scotland, South Africa, Tonga. Pool C is Australia, Fiji, Georgia, Portugal, and Wales. Pool D is Argentina, Chile, England, Japan, and Somalia. Samoa.
That's a pretty good draw for Argentina, no?
Yes, it is a pretty good draw for Argentina. Yes, correct. I could see Argentina getting into the later stages of the World Cup too. I mean, I don't know where they were, Mitchell, 4 years ago when the World Cup. I mean, South Africa won it 4 years ago, but I don't know where Argentina was.
Is it every 4 years? Is it every 4 years?
Every 4 years they play. Yep.
Okay.
So it was 2019. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you a question. Because you say you moved to Argentina in 2003. What do you think? Why do you think? Do you think that okay, I wish I could speak English. It would really help. What do you think the reason is American football doesn't catch on in other places? Do you think it's the language barrier, or because soccer, basketball, baseball is huge around the world. Hockey's huge around the world. Rugby. What's your opinion on that? Why hasn't American football?
It's not public. It has caught on. You just don't read about it. They don't mention it during any NFL games. Israel will get 30,000 to American football teams. Germany is recruiting players from colleges. South Brazil has a team, has various teams, a whole league. Argentina, Uruguay, it's at Chile. Everywhere there's American football. You just don't hear about it. If you were to Google American football worldwide, there's various websites, and it's a huge sport. But it doesn't penetrate in the U.S.
Do you think that? Okay, there we go. Do you think that it hurts that we don't have an NFL World Cup?
Well, I don't think I don't know if anybody would compete at this point. It would just be a wholesale slaughter. But yeah, I mean, I would hope it would come to that point. Like when I was a kid, if you were to tell me that the NBA, some of the better players are at this point, maybe 3 of the 5 best players in the NBA are foreigners, I never would have believed it, that something like that could happen.
Mitchell, is rugby popular in South America and Central America? Is it a pretty along with soccer or football? I'm sure they call football over there.
I wouldn't know in Central America, but I know in Argentina it's pretty popular. Uruguay, it's popular. I think those 2 are the only ones and Chile maybe a little bit. I don't know, but I know it's big here.
I want to say all 3 of those countries are all in the World Cup. Chile, Argentina, and Uruguay are all in the World Cup.
I cheated because I remembered you saying I wouldn't know about Chile, but I remember you saying Chile's in it.
Yeah, they're in the World Cup. Yeah, they're in the World Cup.
I looked over on your paper to get Chile.
Yeah, I grew up watching football, as I told you, but pre-air, I was telling Adam that he's in Argentina, and we interviewed Von Allen, who was in Bulgaria, and it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I think, in Bulgaria when we interviewed him, and we were talking about Brady and Montana and the whole debate with that. And I grew up watching American football, but I fell in love with rugby after I watched the movie Invictus, which was about the South African team winning the World Cup when Nelson Mandela took over as president of South Africa. And again, when you see a Morgan Freeman, how can you hate? How can you hate him by any means of the imagination? But I fell in love with rugby after that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. Adam's right. That's very interesting. How the NBA is so worldwide, and I know the NFL is trying to get to Germany. They play games in Germany and England. I don't know in Mexico. They're trying to get more broad out there, but
Mexico, sorry to interrupt. Mexico probably has 60 to 80 teams of American football.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say they probably have a lot of soccer clubs down there too, or well, what we call soccer, they call football
Right.
down there. And because I think in certain parts of the world, you either play soccer or football. Baseball is popular on the islands and stuff like that, and then you sprinkle rugby in there. But most of it's football. What we call soccer, they call football. That's a pretty popular sport in a lot of countries. I know in who was the big drug dealer that was from South America?
Pablo Escobar.
Pablo Escobar, thank you. He built soccer fields to cover up his money. So he would build these poor area. I saw a documentary about him. He would build soccer fields for neighborhood kids to make it look like he was the good guy. Hey, look, the government's not doing this for you, but I'm doing it for you because I want you guys to flourish and be the best team in the world. I think that was kind of what he was trying to get at, is he wanted to have Brazil to be the best. And Brazil is one of the higher soccer teams in the world. I still think to this day. I don't know if they've been up and down here recently, but for the most part, they've been pretty dominant for a long time in the world of soccer. I'm not a big soccer fan, so
Escobar was good to a lot of poor people. Maybe not in the long run pushing drugs, but he won the hearts and minds by doing the stuff that he did. Getting back to soccer and football, the RGs always win an argument with me when they say, "How can you call it football when it's not even a ball?"
You would thank the British for that, because they were the ones. And soccer is actually a British term, and because they had so many clubs, they wanted to come up with a term for all the clubs. So of course, I would put myself on the spot trying to remember, but it's an acronym, and it stands for Association of Soccer Clubs or Football Clubs or something. I forget but it was originally a British term, and then in the 50s or 60s, they decided to go back to just calling it football, and we kept soccer. The Americans kept soccer to distinguish it from American football.
Cool. That's a better story than how they started lacrosse.
There's another sport that I like to watch when it's on TV.
The background on that was supposedly, if I'm remembering correctly, Indians started playing it with skulls.
It was a war preparation game. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what I heard too. I heard the same story you did, Mitchell, as well. I think it was started by skulls. I guess lacrosse is basically used now for a strengthening thing. I know, like Jim Brown, when he went to Syracuse, he played lacrosse at Syracuse. And then when they recruited, who was the kid that passed away young as a running back for them? They made a movie about him. Number 45, and I can't think of his name.
Gale Sayers?
Not Gale Sayers, no, Chicago.
Brian Song.
Ryan Piccolo.
No, it's not Piccolo. He played for Syracuse after Jim Brown, running back.
I know who you're talking about. I'm like I said, I'm terrible with names.
They made a movie about him, Midnight Train. No, it wasn't Walter Payton.
Chicago.
Oh my God! It's gonna bug me now. His last name was Davis, and I can't think of his first name. Dang it! Hang on a minute. I'll have to look it up. Hang on a second. I'm gonna look this up right now.
Me to it.
Driving me crazy. Let's see here. Davis.
I was going to offer to be your research department, but you beat me to it.
Syracuse. All right. Let's see here. Running back.
We have an opening for a research department. It doesn't pay anything.
Ernie Davis. Ernie Davis.
Okay, yeah.
He was being recruited to Syracuse to follow in Jim Brown's shoes.
That was a good movie.
It was a good. I agree with you. It was a very good movie.
A low budget but good movie. Touching.
Correct. Yeah, it was a very interesting story and how he was the first African American to win the Heisman. Is that correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was he the first African American to win the Heisman Trophy? I think he was.
I wouldn't know.
Ernie Davis was an American college football player who won. Yes, he won the Heisman in 1961. He was the first African American to win the Heisman Trophy. So he was the very first one ever to win. But
now I know something.
When he was recruited to Syracuse, Jim Brown said, "Hey, I suggest you get into lacrosse." And he's like, "I don't play lacrosse. I play football." He goes, "No, I suggest you get on the lacrosse team here and learn how to play lacrosse." He goes, "I did. I guess Jim Brown was an All-American in lacrosse at Syracuse. I didn't know that until the movie that you're referring to, Mitchell. I didn't know that he was an All-American. I looked it up, and lo and behold, he was an All-American at Syracuse in lacrosse." I'm like, oh, there's something new you don't know every day.
I once heard a story. I don't know if it's true or not, if it's legal or not, but he would take the whatever you call the ball and the net thing, and put the ball in the net to his chest and just run through everybody. And they'd be whacking at him to no avail.
And the funny thing about lacrosse, it's the nation sport in Canada, and you wouldn't imagine that there'd be too much lacrosse being played in Canada, but that is the national sport in Canada is lacrosse.
Did not.
We think it's hockey, but it's not. Lacrosse was actually their national sport.
Did not know that.
Yep, that is their role. Yep, and down here in Florida, well, mostly in the States, if it's not a private school, we don't see lacrosse. I know USF is starting a women's lacrosse team. That's starting, I think, next year in 2025. But they're starting to get lacrosse down here, but it's not as popular as it is, say, in the Northeast, Mitchell, where you're from, New York. Maine, Massachusetts, that area is big in lacrosse.
Particularly Maryland and Long Island, which is a suburb of New York. It's wild in Long Island.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's huge in Maryland. Yeah, Maryland always has a good team.
Yeah.
Notre Dame they got a good lacrosse team. North Carolina, Duke, they have good lacrosse teams.
Yep.
Both of those universities. So yeah, it's an interesting sport. Again, it's kind of like hockey with no ice, and you hit people. Yeah. You hit people. Yep.
I was just gonna say, you were talking about odd things that athletes do. I remember hearing about Gail Sayers. He took ballet growing up.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I think it was Gail Sayers. Was a ballet dancer growing up.
Huh. I heard Vladimir Lomachenko, the boxer, his father took him out of boxing for a year or two just to learn dancing so he could move.
Oh, look who this is. Look who decides to show up to the show late.
I had a major problem this afternoon.
Lou, I'm just joking with you, bud. I'm kidding with you.
I'm glad you're back, Lou.
Me too.
So
Me too.
Just busting the balls a little bit.
See, I told you, Lou. I told you to calm down. Cool down.
Yeah, but fellas, here's what happened. I went into my tabs to look at something, and all of a sudden it just disappeared, and I couldn't get anything in.
I told you to calm down. Don't overthink it, and look what happened.
Mom got me on.
Mom got on, and I remember my alternate password.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, we're here. It's water under the bridge.
Yeah, there you go. One under the bridge. Absolutely.
Yeah. See, Lou,
All right, moving on.
that happens, don't get upset.
Moving on.
Just sit back, take a deep breath, relax for a few hours, and let it come back to you, and then go on.
Lou, real quick, Mitchell is a fellow New York Jets fan, so I told him about you.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
He's a fellow Jets fan.
I have the game actually right now.
I'm gonna watch it when we're done here. No spoilers, please. Don't tell me.
Okay.
The Jets are looking pretty good right now. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, yeah, but remember, you can't judge with the free season.
That's true.
But I like to watch the new talent just to see.
Oh, absolutely.
And get a little feel for how it's going to look. I mean, It's football, so it can't all be bad.
Oh, no, but I mean, because let me give you an example. The Jets finished in preseason. But let me give you an example. The Jets one preseason finished 5-0, and what they do in the regular season? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
You know the year the Lions went 0-16?
Yes.
Do you know what the preseason record was?
4-0.
4-0.
Yep.
That's right.
There you go. Perfect example.
Yep. Talk about long suffering.
I'm happy football's back. Let's see, what is today's date is the 3rd. Jesus, I got 22 days, guys. 22 days away. It'll be 3 weeks from tomorrow that I'll be calling my first high school football game. Holy crap!
How does that feel?
Will it be on the internet? Will it be on the internet where I can watch it?
Yeah, Mitchell, what I'll do is I try to go live, so it'll probably be on here, but I'll be alone. But I'll go ahead and send you the link for that. Absolutely.
Because me finding it on my own would be difficult.
Well, what I'll do too, Mitchell, is I'll add you to our Facebook group, and then anything that gets posted on there, because I'm a writer myself. I've been writing for about 3 or 4 years now, or no, almost 6 years.
Longer than that.
What kind of stuff do you write? What do you write?
Mostly sports. I'm big into football. is a big topic. I write about golf a lot. I've been playing the game since I was 5. Actually, my latest article was about the greatest golf rival. What I consider the top 5 rivalries in the game of golf, and I'll give you my 5. Number 1, I think, is the greatest rivalry. It might be one of the best in sports. Was Nicklaus and Palmer. I think when it comes to those two,
right.
It's hard to say anything otherwise. I had Woods and Mickelson, Woods and Garcia, and I had Faudo and Norman. I don't remember that feud very much. Then, of course, the more recent one, we talked about it last week, was Koepka versus DeChambeau. That's the latest one. But Mitchell, I talk about college football. I've gotten press credentials to USF football the last 5 years. So I write a lot about football, golf. I dabble here and there on things, but mostly those are the 2 things you'll see me write about more than anything else. Yeah.
Hey Brad, when you do your football broadcasting, you think you can do me a favor?
Shoot.
Mention Sports Network.
Sure, I could do that. Yeah, that's no problem.
I was wondering if you'd be allowed to drop a plug for the show.
Yeah,
I can do that. I don't know if I can. Well, well, you know what, guys? We're gonna have the guy that got me the gig on next week. So let's talk to him. If I can clear that with him, then we're golden. But I have no problem doing that. I mean, if I can prep both our shows or the network in general, hell yeah, man, that's a good way for us to pick up and views and everything.
I do a show before Brad. It's called the Wisniewski Report.
The what report?
The Wisniewski Report.
Okay.
And I would love for you to check it out, or maybe come on and talk some sports with us.
Hey, any time you want.
Yeah.
Get Bradley to link me on Facebook, because I'm a tech moron, and for me without a link, it's a 1 in a million shot. Happy to watch it. Happy to come on.
And if you don't mind, Mitchell, I can send you a friend request and also add you to my Facebook group.
Please do.
Mitchell, real quick question.
He felt that one.
Is there any sport that you don't follow? Anything that do you follow everything? Being in Argentina, do you get a chance to watch everything, or is it?
Yeah, I have direct TV, so I get most.
Okay.
Right. Did you watch the World Cup?
Oh my God! You don't want to know what happened here after they won it.
I can take a hint.
Yeah. I live near a block away from Santa Fe, which is a major street. They walked down where everybody was meeting. The street was filled for hours and hours. I think they tallied 4 or 5 million people in the street. They were crying, screaming. It was nuts. I was in Houston when they won the NBA title, and they had a little thing. That was a fraction of what you saw here. People just went nuts.
So did I.
Oh man, it was crazy. I'd love to see the Jets win the Super Bowl, but I don't know if I'd go as crazy because I was here and watching all the people get emotional. It really hit me hard.
I was happy for Messi.
So was I. Yeah. Kind of like, when the Rangers won the Stanley Cup in '94, we thought we'd never see that. Well, that happened. So this was, probably equal to that, because as a Ranger fan, I was, we waited over half a century to get another cup, and Messi never won a World Cup title, despite how great he's been. And I kind of like equal to that. But even if you don't follow soccer, everybody knows who Messi is, pretty much. And, when he hit that goal and when Argentina won, even fans here, soccer fans here in the States all went berserk. Even I went nuts because I am a Messi fan.
Oh, now what a beautiful thing that he ended up in Miami and he's turning that team around.
Not surprising though.
I don't blame him. He can't walk the streets in Argentina without risking getting dead. They'll just crowd him.
Remember, he has a home in Miami, so I guess that's where he wanted to go. So it didn't come as a surprise to me at all. That's where he went. I would love him to come to New York, but I didn't think it was going to happen.
Okay,
well,
Mitch,
we had
a friend request.
Pardon?
I sent you the friend request.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
As soon as I get off here, I'll accept it.
Okay.
Okay. If I can spell that name right.
I was gonna say, do you guys want to talk NASCAR? They're in Daytona this week, are they not?
They're in Michigan. Come on.
I'm sorry. Wow. I keep listening to the radio. They keep talking about Daytona, so that's why.
Daytona's in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
The 2024 NASCAR Hall of Fame nominees that came out.
Yeah.
Who are they?
Let me pull them back up here because I had them.
Because it was kind of cool sitting with Adam how they pick them.
Yep.
They are.
So Jeff Burton was one. Jimmy, Chad. Who? I don't remember who the other three were.
Trying to get to it now. Give me just a second here. Okay, here we go. The nominees are Allison Bonnet, Neil Bonnet, Jeff Burton, Paul Edwards. We'll get to the full list here.
There we go.
Come on. Quit acting like my wife. Hey!
Guys, I swear we're gonna see a live murder on one of our shows. I swear on our life, one of these days. One of these days, we're gonna see a live execution on the air. That'll be the highest view total we have.
No.
It'll be that.
Remember, this show is intended for mature audiences.
It's brought to you by letter R.
Good call.
Let's see. So, come on, correct one. Okay. Here are the nominees: Neil Bonnet, Tim Brewer, Jeff Burton, Paul Edwards, Harry Grant, Harry Hyde, Jimmy Johnson, Chad Knaus, Larry Phillips, Ricky Rudd. One will be elected from the 5 names of the Pioneer ballot: Allison Sam, AJ Foyt, Banjo Matthews, and Ralph Moody.
I'm interested to see who they're going to pick.
24 nominees.
Because Adam, weren't 2 of those guys on the stage? Don't they vote for those guys?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 2 of them that were on stage votes for those guys and for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the 2 that were on the stage. Yeah, we were at the Hall of Fame.
The Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they were part of the selection committee.
If that murder ever happens on live video, get rid of the evidence. Dump the evidence. Delete the video. Delete the video.
Yeah, but you're the one that's getting murdered. They need that for the conviction.
I was going to say the police department may be asking me for the footage.
Tell them what footage? I don't know nothing about no footage.
Yeah, but you're the one that's getting murdered.
The Austin Police Department may need that.
Yeah, they call the Texas Rangers.
Hey, I don't know what happened to the footage. It was here 1 minute, next minute it's gone.
Oh my God. See
what we have to put up with?
We have a lot of fun.
This goes on like this every week. We sit here and pick on each other like this.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, if I come back on, I'll be careful. I might come out of my shell a little bit and compete with you.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, you guys, I got to get running, but thank you so much for having me. It was way more fun than I ever expected it to be. You guys are a cool group of guys.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You can come back on the show anytime. Like I said, I'll stay in touch with you on Facebook, and I'll send you the link when I do my football game.
Okay, I look forward to it. And I got a new friend on Facebook.
And as soon as you set my friend request, I would add you to my Facebook group.
Good deal, man. Again, thanks so much.
You too much.
I don't even know how to get out of here. All right, exit full screen.
And then on the bottom of your screen, it's going to say leave. Just click the X.
Okay. Click the.
Adios, amigos.
Sayonara.
Thank you.
Well, guys,
I'm so glad you didn't leave. You sat back and took a deep breath and came and got everything together.
Got it figured out.
Absolutely.
Because we can't. These 2 shows, Lou. If you leave,
yeah, they're not the same. They're not the same.
They're not about you, Lou. Especially your one-liners.
And Lou, sometime next week, I'm going to send you cards. So just send me your address again, and I'm going to send you those cards.
Now, wait, my home address?
Wherever your mailing address is. I don't know what I had down. Hang on a minute. Let me see if I can go back to that chat and
Sure.
Maybe
What would we do without our grumpy old man?
What's that?
What would we do without our grumpy old man?
Oh my goodness! Oh, he didn't hear that. I don't think he caught that.
I think you.
I heard it.
I love you, Lou.
Hey,
I don't want to read your.
Yeah, we can say that till we're off the air. Stick around for a couple minutes after the show, Lou.
Yeah,
but Adam, why are you not on camera?
Because I'm laying in bed and I'll probably turn the camera on.
Never mind.
I have pants on.
More information I needed.
Oh yeah, I just don't like the angle. I had the camera on earlier, and then I went downstairs to grab my nicotine and a drink, and I just didn't feel like turning the camera back on so I could lay in bed.
Actually, y'all got 2 grumpy old men on the show.
That's not that old.
Me and Lou.
You won that one.
Honestly, I was having a very frustrating day, and this is what makes me happy. Coming on here.
This is the only.
Forgotten the day.
I know we talk about growing the show and making the show better but this is why I get up every week. This keeps me going, knowing that I'm going to come here and hang out with you guys. In spite of
are you guys okay with another guest next week?
I'd have a guest every week.
Okay.
I don't care. It's your show, bro.
I have one coming on next week on my show. She's going to be talking about how she overcame MS, which is
who cares?
Multiple sclerosis. Yeah, my grandma had it. I'm interested.
And talk about her book, Mystery, MS Mystery Solved, and how Jesus helped her heal from that.
Cool. Nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that.
Not at all.
Like I said, the guy that got me the gig for the high school gig will be on here next week, and he's just like Mitchell. He's like, I want to come on, and you got to talk to me about it. I said, dude, we're not going to hammer you. We're not going to ask you personal questions.
Right. We don't want to know we don't care whether you're at Boxers or Braves.
Yeah. We're not going to ask you anything personal. It's going to be just questions about football and stuff.
We're not going to ask you how many times a day you go to the restroom.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Right. We're not going to ask you your thoughts about the upcoming presidential election.
Correct. Yeah.
It's not that kind of show.
Politic talking, But yeah, I mean,
whoever picked the Browns to win this game, not doing good.
But
it's 13-0 Jets.
Correct.
Oh, Mitchell's off here now, so he's watching the game, so that's fine.
Right.
I hope he's watching the game now. But hope you didn't ruin it for him. Hope he's not still watching.
I think we've had three weeks in a row where we've had great guests.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like to think. I'd like to think we're pretty good interviewers.
Yeah, I think we are too. I think we had with Ashton coming on.
He was fun. I had a blast.
Yeah.
Nicole last week was a good show. Mitchell was a good show. And
the two that coach would have came out.
I'm still working.
Yeah, Mo.
I'm still.
You have to hammer him. You have to get him back on.
I'm still working on that. I'm working an angle to try to get him to come back on. So
he keeps saying, "I get back with you. I get back with you," and
yeah. That's okay. Just work him. Just work him down. It'll be all right.
So what did I do? I backed off.
And again, I'll try again in a couple of months, and
Yep.
I'm gonna give him about a month or two. Then ask him again.
What I think is funny is we ask your guests for like 15 minutes. At least that's my policy whenever I'm reaching out to someone to hey, 15 minutes. We each get like 2 or 3 questions and let them answer the questions, and then if they want to go ahead and go, because obviously we're a small show and we don't want to hold someone hostage. And yet it seems like every time we have a guest on, they're either on for like 45 minutes, an hour 15, the whole show. It's great.
Yeah, because
like I was telling Brad, if we keep this up, this network's going to blow. It's going to blow.
I hope so. It is.
With Dustin and Mikey, Dustin was on basically almost
the whole show.
Nicole was on almost the entire show. Mitchell was on for over an hour. So
yeah.
We need to get Mickey back on. The other one that was on with him.
I'm gonna try to get Mikey to come back on because he.
Yeah, I want to talk to Mikey more. He seemed like the smart guy, like a real wise guy.
Yeah. So like I said, I have one more. I think I might have another one the week after that. I will have to go looking because I couldn't find Mitchell on my chat. I'm like, I know this guy's on here. And I said, you know what? I'm going to message him. And I'm like, I'm going to message him and see. And he said, yes, I'm available. I'm like, well, come on. Because I know he had been talking to me. He'd been sick. And I'm like,
I said it. I thought it was really, kind of him to apologize to us for not being able to come on. I didn't think I was not I didn't take it personal. Stuff happens. Shit happens. I'm not. The thing about I was just disappointed because I was excited to find out what his book was about and to learn more about Lance Armstrong it was funny. He came at it from the other. He took the other approach. He came at it from a defending of Lance Armstrong position because the way I look at it, and this is just me talking, but the my problem, it's the kind of that attitude of where everyone else is doing it. That doesn't make it right. In my opinion. And I understand where like if everyone else is doing it and you want to be the best, then I get the rationalization, right? But that doesn't make it right? And my problem is the way I look at it, and especially baseball being a prime example. If the big guys are doing it, right? If the top guys are doing it, if the MLB stars are doing it, right? That means that the AAA guys have to do it, right? And then the AA guys have to do it because they want to get to the next level, which means single A guys are doing it, which means high school kids are doing it, or college kids are doing it, which means high school kids are doing it. And then you got a 14-year-old who blows out his knee and punches a girl in the head in the hallway at school because he's so roided out and he's 14 years old, full of testosterone. He's already full of testosterone, and you're dumping drugs on top of that. And and the long term unintended consequences and the unrealized. I understand. It's one thing if an adult an adult wants to make that decision. I personally, the way I look at it, for me, is I don't care if you want to use performance enhancing drugs. If you think it's going to give you an edge, personally, the way I look at it, I don't think it's as long as everyone has access to the same substances and they make that choice and they're willing to live with and they fully understand the consequences of their actions, then I don't personally have any problem with doping. I really don't. My problem is the fact that it's not legal, right? So you're breaking the rules, first off. And second of all, it's the fact that everyone else under you is going to have to do it to compete with you. And that's my problem with the doping, and not just in baseball, but in all sports. In cycling. If you're cheating, and let's be honest, it is cheating because it's against the rules. The idea to me, but personally, I wouldn't have a problem with it. If athletes think that it's going to give them an edge, I say legalize it and let them deal with it. If they're fully, they're fully cognizant adults and they're fully mature adults and they choose to do drugs to make them better athletes, they are the ones that are going to have to live with the consequences. The problem is that it forces other people, it forces younger and younger people to have to take drugs, which is not right. Ranto. I cede my time to the senator from California.
I'm hooking guys for the other one, and I can't. I must have either deleted the message on Facebook or text or something. But there was another guy that was a scout. I think.
Oh yeah, you're
Cubs, and let me text my friend Mike because he's the one who. Because I gotta get him try to get him back on here.
Brad, did you
yes,
hear?
Sir.
Did you hear what happened to Mr. Vincent Kennedy McMahon?
I saw that he was being investigated. The cops raided his house, if I'm not mistaken.
Sexual misconduct.
Yep, I heard that. And speaking of that, there's a big pay-per-view this weekend.
Yeah,
I'll be at my friend's house watching SummerSlam.
There's some great matches on there. We got Drew McIntyre versus Gunther. Jey Uso going up against Roman Reigns for the championship, plus the chance to take over being tribal chief.
Yep.
We got the triple threat match for the women's championship, and I would not be surprised if Io Sky cashes in that day.
She should. Yeah. She should.
I think I would.
You have Rousey and Baszler.
If she pins Asuka, Bianca, or Charlotte, she wins.
Yeah. I think she sits back and watches the three of them beat the crap out of each other, and then whoever's left and whoever wins is all beat up. She cashes in and wins the title, and then starts a feud with Asuka because they're from the same country. So you can see that kind of that rivalry between the two of them.
We got Ricochet going against Logan Paul. Both of them are high flyers.
That's going to be a good match. That'll be a good match to watch.
And Drew versus Gunther. That's going to be a good match because both of them are.
Is that for the belt? Joe, is that for the belt? Intercontinental Championship.
That's for the Intercontinental.
Yeah. And who's
both of them are built. And that's going to be that match is going to go back and forth.
LA Knights against Austin Theory for the United States Championship too, right?
No.
Nope.
That's
I thought LA Knight was going for a title. I could be wrong though.
Yeah. Let me go back and look because I do have the list. Okay, here's the matches for SummerSlam. Cody versus Brock 3.
Cody should win that one, hopefully, but we'll see.
Cody has promised to end this.
Yeah.
He's gonna take Brock down. We got Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor, and that's for the heavyweight championship. Tribal combat match for the Universal Champion and Tribal Chief, Roman versus Jay.
So, yep.
And there is rumors that either Nia Jax or Tamina is going to show up and help Jey Uso win that.
Hey, Gerald, I saw an article written by Dave Mesmer, who's one of the top wrestling writers. You know what he said? He said that Jimmy's going to come back and screw Jay.
You think so?
I don't see that happening.
I don't see that happening either.
That was written, and the comment in the comment section, because I read the article in the comment section, they said, why would the WWE continue with Roman Reigns being their champion when he's not a full-time guy? He's there part-time. He leaves. Why not have a guy that's gonna have the belt and be there all the time? And Jay's hot right now. Why not? I hope Jay wins the belt. That's just my opinion. I hope he wins.
Yeah. Then after that, we got Drew versus Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey versus Shayna.
Shayna Baszler. Yep.
This is going to be Ronda's swan song.
You think so?
I think so. I think Ronda's going to leave after this.
There was a rumor that she was returning to the UFC. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard. I don't know.
Then the triple threat match. Asuka versus Bianca Belair versus Charlotte Flair.
Okay.
And this is where Io could cash in.
Mm-hmm.
You let them three beat each other down, and then when one of them wins, you come out, cash in, knock them off, take the belt.
Then we got Ricochet versus Logan Paul. That's going to be a high-flying match.
Slobber knocker, as JR might like to say.
And then we got the SummerSlam Battle Royale.
Okay. I could have sworn I thought that they had announced that LA Knight was taking on Austin Theory for the United States Championship.
You might have heard this for tomorrow's
SmackDown.
It's LA Knight versus Sheamus. That's probably what you're talking about.
Okay. Because LA Knight was a heel. He's face now. He's turned. He's a face now. He's a fan favorite all of a sudden.
Now,
right.
If
I was kind of LA Knight was a fan favorite though.
If Brad doesn't mind, I got some questions I want to ask y'all.
Go ahead.
Y'all know that Zach Martin still hasn't returned to camp.
The Cowboy player?
Jerry Jones not budging on a new deal. Now, here is the reason why Jerry's not budging. Because Zach still has 2 more years left on his original contract.
Right.
Should Jerry budge and go ahead and give in or stand his ground?
Pay the man.
Just like Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis, too. Time for Irsay to pay up.
And I heard, too, that if Jonathan Taylor does not get traded, he's not going to play this season.
Irsay won't trade him. Irsay came out and said that he goes, not in my lifetime are you going to see him get traded. So
and
that's
then,
what he said.
The Dolphins signed Eli Apple as a replacement until Ramsey returns.
Jalen Ramsey, yep.
And we all know Eli's not that good.
It's going to be
Yeah.
And then Sean Payton and Aaron Rodgers are going back and forth.
I saw that.
So Sean Payton said something about the
Daniel Hackett.
Said something about Hackett.
Yeah.
And then Rodgers came back and said something about Sean.
Yeah. They've gone back and forth in the media. That's drama. That's preseason drama.
Mm-hmm.
Can't go by the preseason though.
Suspended 2 games for PED use. It was determined that the substance was for his heart. Now that right there, that could go bad on the league because the league knew that medicine was for his heart.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't like that. I if he's got a prescription for it, and he's not abusing it, and he's not using it in a way that it doesn't, that it's not supposed to be used.
Well, the reason why they're doing this because he's a Cowboy. He plays for the Dallas Cowboys.
You see,
I see we got a conspiracy theorist amongst our ranks tonight.
Uh-oh. Here comes the drama.
Or any other team, it wouldn't have happened.
Right. What if he was a Patriot? Guaranteed.
I think that's kind of like what we were talking about last week before last on your show there, Gerald, when we were talking about referees and blaming the refs, and of course everyone thinks the refs are out to get their team. So, I think that's a case of everybody thinks that the league's out to get their team. But I mean, the league is out to get your team because you're cheating. Stop cheating. People won't have those problems.
New England. Every time they got a problem, they have a secret weapon. They deflate everything. So that's
I don't remember what referee
Iron
was.
shots.
But
now, as for the case with PEDs, now you're saying how it gives a boost. Yeah, in the short term, it may not affect you, but in the long term, it could really do some damage, and it could probably even kill you.
Oh, hell. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm against PEDs. I mean, they say it'd be great, but it's like every steroids. Eventually, it's going to catch up with you, and it's going to do some serious damage, and you could die. So it's best if you don't take them.
Back to the referee thing. There was one referee, I don't remember his name, but he came out and said that he missed a couple calls in a game, or made bad calls in a couple games.
Of course.
I think there's a difference between owning your mistake and saying, yeah, I messed up. I should have caught that, or that wasn't. I shouldn't have thrown that flag, or that's one thing. But then, because at the end of the day, referees are human. Unfortunately, they're not perfect, and so owning your mistakes, as opposed to saying, I saw him stab that guy in the chest 3 times, but I didn't call anything because screw that guy.
I seen Gerald's wife murder him, and I didn't call it.
Well, you keep wanting us to delete the evidence.
Well, yeah, we'll hide the evidence from the Austin State Police Department, from the Austin City.
Austin City. The Texas Rangers.
Texas Rangers will be invading.
Right.
Ranger. I won't mind being arrested. Hey!
Speaking of the Texas Rangers, they made a big splash at the trade deadline getting Max Scherzer. That was big.
Yes, they did.
And
That was
Luke,
big.
what happened to your Yankees?
I think he didn't do much of anything, and but they're struggling now. You know, they won last night, yes, but they are doing. But they are on a tailspin. I thought maybe with Judge coming back, that might have helped. That might have helped them over their offense and score more runs, but they haven't really done much. They've only won 2 games since the trade deadline.
And
well, I mean, since the last few weeks.
Diego
Not
Herman
good.
is in rehab. Is that right? Did I hear that?
Yeah.
He went to
And now
rehab for
Verlander-
alcohol or something.
Verlander's back with
Well,
the
it's rehab again,
Astros.
schmuck first of all. So
Not a Herman fan. Okay. Yeah, Gerald. Verlander's back in with the Astros. Yep.
Should I say
So-
the cheaters?
The Mets waved the white flag. So Steve Cohen pays all that money, and they're waving the white flag already.
Yeah.
Steve,
They didn't even have to wait till September for a collapse this year.
Nope.
They got that out of the way in May.
I was
how do you go from 102 wins in one season? I mean, yeah, you lost the players, but then to this.
Well, I was looking at the power rankings today, this afternoon, when I was kind of taking notes and getting some stuff for the show. ESPN has. Are you ready for this? Who do you think is ranked 1-2 after the deadline in baseball? Give me the teams.
Braves and Rangers.
The Braves and the Orioles are 1-2 in the power rankings.
I was
Yes,
going
of
to say
course.
Braves at number 1.
Yeah, Atlanta is the top team. They are by
Yeah,
far.
Atlanta's the best team in baseball right now. It really sucks.
And then at the bottom, of course, you got the Royals and the A's. What a shock.
Yeah, the A's are 32 games out of first place and 30 games out of the wild card spot. There you
The
go.
A's were eliminated in spring training.
Yeah. First month of the year they were
how
out.
much I hate Chris Collinsworth. I got my TV turned down so I don't have to hear his big mouth.
I can't stand Gerald. He's a Florida Gator too, and I can't stand Chris Collinsworth. Stand him either.
Hey, Brad.
Yeah.
I get. So
I hate when he calls games.
there's something that I wanted to bring up last week, but then I didn't think the setting was right for it. Are we still allowed one F-bomb?
Sure.
What?
Okay, so there's a background to this, and I'll get into the background here in just a second. But so, fuck Russia, stand with Olga. So what happened? And this is really personal for me with everything that's going on over there right now. But so that happened last week. I wanted to talk about it last week because it was fresh and it was hot. But that show just didn't seem like the right setting, and we ended up going long with the interview, which is fine. It's totally nothing. But so what happened is that the Ukrainian fencer Olga, and forgive me for not knowing how to pronounce Ukrainian, but Kahanalin, something like that, won her fencing match against a Russian fencer who is competing under a flag of neutrality because Russia is banned from IOC competition. And so what happened? So after Olga won the match, they talked to the fencing world fencing sanctioning body. I forget the term. What happened was she offered her a saber touch at the end of the bout, and the Russian fencer refused to touch sabers and insisted on a handshake. Well, Olga was not going to give her a handshake, and so the Russian fencer threw a temper tantrum for 45 minutes and demanded that they overturn the win. And of course,
Wow.
And of course she got her way, and and they overturned the win and gave it to the other girl. And then that was like really really hot for like 48 hours. Well, after everyone raised a massive stink on social media, they reversed the decision and gave the Ukrainian fencer an automatic bid into the Olympics next year.
Wasn't there something similar, Bud, at Wimbledon too? I think there was a Ukrainian tennis player, and they were playing against Russian. She wouldn't shake the Russian's hand, and they made a big stink about how the Wimbledon crowd booed the Russian player who attempted to shake hands, but the Ukrainian player's like, "I'm not shaking hands with you. You invaded my country." And I think, Lou, correct me if I'm wrong, in the post-game press conference,
Yep.
the Russian, and I forget the name of the Russian player, was the number one player in the world at one time. And they just absolutely roasted her in that. She's like, "What did you want me to do? If I shook her hand, I would have got booed by the crowd. If I don't shake her hand, I'm still going to get booed. So how was I going to win? You guys don't leave me."
It's like, the way it sounds like, how they were being like, towards each other. In America, back in the 90s, we had a saying, and it was in 2 words. I'll just put it like this: it was like their way of saying "bite me." So it's
definitely. What. Well, I think for a lot of the Ukrainians who are competing in international competition, the problem is that the Russian athletes were banned from international competition, and yet they're being allowed to participate by running away to other countries, by living in the fencer lives in Spain, so she was able to compete she was able to circumvent the ban. And then there was I forget what sport it was, but it was some maybe it was tennis or something, I don't remember, but it was a men's sport, and the Ukrainian male won. I think it was Denmark. It was some Scandinavian country, and Iran. And the Ukrainian player shakes the hand of the silver medalist and refuses to shake the hand of the Iranian.
And they ran so far away after that.
No, that's my story. I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to bring that up. And
real quick, Mitchell just sent me a message. I'm not going to stick it up there because it's hard for you guys to read. It says, "Thanks, Mucho. Lots of fun. You do a great job and have a cool crew." So I just wanted to read that to you guys. You just messaged me on Facebook, so I said, "You're welcome." We try to make our guests feel calm. I don't want to bring them here and then feel like you said, Bud. We don't make you feel stressed. I'm not going to ask you personal questions. We don't get paid to do this anyway. And even if we did get paid, I'm still not going to treat my guests like,
it's not an interrogation.
Yeah, another payday. Okay, well, we can ask them anything we want, because there are some. I mean, I've interviewed my friend who's a boxer. She is an agent, and you got to clear every question through him before you can ask her. So you send him the questions, and then she passed. Then he'll come back and say, "Yeah, you can ask her that." But some people are like that. They're behind. You got to be careful with what you ask. Like I said, we seem to the people that we get on here, and over the years that we've done this, everybody's cool and calm, and they always want to come back. And that's how I want to make it. I want to make it so people can feel comfortable to come back and talk to us. We'll have Dustin and Mikey on in the middle of the season, being that they're fantasy guys and NFL guys. We can even bring Jeff Barnes back on, the guy that
that'd be fun.
Bring him back on as well.
Especially at the end of the college football season.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect. End of the college football season, we can have him come back on and have him give us his picks, or who they have picked to draft, and who's high on his draft board. Absolutely. good idea.
Well, the way I look at it, especially being a small outfit, is that I don't want, we get small time guests, which is, the nature of the business. We're small fish in a big pond. So we talk to other small fish. And I don't ever want our guests to feel like they're in an interrogation room. Where were you on the night of the 5th? With the
well, I was downstairs in the study, and then
it was Colonel Mustard with the candlestick in the conservatory.
Every time I think of Tim Curry, I think of that movie. Every time I think of Tim Curry, I think of Clue. That was one of my favorites. And then,
sorry, a little bit too much Perry Mason. Yeah.
But the way I look at it is it's conversation. No, it's not a debate. It's not an interrogation. It's an interview. It's a conversation. And usually we have guests that are here to promote something. Whether it be a book or a business or a service. Usually we have those type of guests. So for me as an interviewer, I want to be able to give them leeway in the questioning that we're going to, allowing them to. We ask them a question, and then we shut up, let them talk. If they talk for 15 minutes, oh well. If we ask one question and they talk for 2 hours, well then that's just the way that's just the way the show ends. That's if we give them, like you were saying about being comfortable, making sure that they feel welcome. That's the big thing. Is making sure that the guests, because at some point I'd like to be a little bit bigger of a fish. That is the goal, right? To grow and expand and get bigger guests. Not to say I don't. When I say little, we swim in our part of the pond. We play in our sandbox, and I'm hoping that one day we'll be able to grow and expand the sandbox we get to play in. And this is not a it's not a denigration of any of the guests we've had on, and I hope that they don't take that for me. It's not a put down or a slight of any of the guests. It's just the nature of the game.
And I just remember one thing though, because if you give me in trouble if you eat the sandbox though. Oh no!
Right. Don't eat the yellow sand.
What I'm going to do, Bud, this year is when I go, the first USF game is the 9th of September, about a month from now. I know the guy that does the credentials also does that sets up interviews. I'm going to try and see if I can get players or coaches on here. I would love to have
really cool.
Bush come on here one night and have us talk to him. But I'm going to ask Brian, hey, how would I go about, I have a podcast. I have my cards now. I have a podcast. Could I have players on? Could I have a coach on? When is the best time to ask you to bring those guys on, or could they come on? That's what I'm going to try to work on this year is that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I mean about, playing, we don't,
Okay.
Are we gonna get a Joey Logano? I don't know why Joey Logano was the first name that popped in my head, but it was. But or a Josh Allen, right? No, probably not right now. But I want when if we start making connections, we start growing, we start getting popular. I want them to be like, if we reached out to Josh Allen, next year, let's say next summer, we've gotten some traction, we've gotten some views, we're trying to make a go of this thing, and we're popping off, and we're doing numbers on YouTube and Facebook. I want to be able to say that, when we have a guest on, that the guests, get to that they have a good time, and that we're not hostile to the guests. We don't talk over them. We're polite, professional, so that when we can get bigger and better guests, that they want to be on the show. That we're turning guests away because we don't have time.
Yeah.
Sorry, we can't do it this week. We've already got 3 interviews. We only have 15 minutes because we got 3 other interviews we got to get in.
Right.
Well, that'd be a cool show to have like 1 or 2 on at the same time, during the show. So first guest is on from 8:15 to 8:35, and then the second guest comes on at 9:15 to 9:35. We'll just say 20 minutes for shits and giggles.
Sake of argument.
Yeah.
More so, more hopefully laughs than
That's and we can right now there's no time limit. Like if they want to stay the whole time, they're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
One day I'm hoping that we're big enough where we have to tell them, we have a hard 15 minutes. We have a hard 20 minutes because we have other things that we have to get to tonight. Not because we don't want to talk to you, but because we're Pat McAfee levels of awesome. We're Giga Chads out here, and we're burning through topics, and we're doing our thing, and we're competitive. We're competitive.
yes.
And we've all ditched our basements for actual studio time.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, I think, Bud, by what we're doing now, we're getting the small, the guests that will be considered small time. That they're not small time by any means of the imagination, but you work your way up the ladder. So you get it where next thing you know, you get a top of the line NFL scout or a top of the line MLB scout or an NHL scout, or then the next thing you know, we have Andre Vasilevsky on here, or who's the goaltender, Lou, for the Rangers? Shishkin, right?
Shishkin, yeah.
We have him come on and talk.
And that's the thing.
Talk, yeah.
We get a big time MLB scout on, and then we get like an assistant general manager, and then we get a general manager, and then we get some line, we get the third line from the Rangers. That'd be dope. We get all 3 guys on to hang out with us for an hour. That's kind of, in my dream, in my fantasy world, we each make $1 million a show. We do 4 shows a month, and we don't have to work.
That would be nice.
Then I have a studio at that point.
Yeah, we don't have studio. We'd have 1 studio. We'd rotate studios each week. We'd all fly into the studio on Thursday morning, get off the plane, hang out for a few hours, go do the show, fly out Friday, and then we'd rotate studios and we'd fly into Florida on Thursday morning, do the show, fly out Friday morning, and then the next week we'd fly into Texas, do the show in Texas, and then fly into New York, do the show in New York, and then fly into Tennessee, do the show here.
Rotate them. Yep.
Yeah.
We'd have our own running private. We'd have a private plane and.
Yep.
Walker report. Too bad you're gonna learn today. You're gonna learn today.
Private planes are great. You can get up and use the restroom, walk around the plane. You don't get. Yeah, there is.
You leave.
Different.
You can take off whenever.
Correct. Yep.
The plane is waiting on you.
Yep.
Look, boss, the plane.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. I'm not going shortly.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Are you pouting over there, Gerald?
No.
You look like you're pouting.
No.
Thinking.
He's thinking about flying. He's thinking about. You got him thinking about flying.
We'll call him Night Train Gerald. There, you can ride the train.
I don't fly.
Remember, guys, man never flew either. He took a bus.
Yes, correct. 2025. You guys are going out for Daytona, February. You're flying there.
I'll be there. Okay.
We'll get you a train. You can ride the train. We'll call you Midnight Gerald.
We can Amtrak him.
Night Train Gerald. Night Train Gerald.
Yep.
Nope. I don't go on trains neither.
We'll throw you in the back of a U-Haul. It'll be all right.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh boy.
How could you not train? That would be cool.
Yeah.
Trains are fun. I like train.
But that
I like train.
That would be cool. I would think
That would-
by train. All right, guys. Well, go ahead, Lou. If you want to do your show, bud, let me know. Go ahead with that.
And while y'all
Assuming
doing
they
that,
don't have any-
I'm gonna go rate the
Assuming we don't have
refrigerator.
any problems. Assuming we don't have any problems with any issues, the Enhanced Sports Show will air from 4 to 6 Saturday Eastern Time. Number to call is 512-543-4662. We'll continue on with the Women's World Cup, which is now heading into the to the knockout stage. We'll take care of NFL preseason, the first game with the Jets versus the Browns. We'll also look ahead to the upcoming games for the first full week of training camp. MLB trades at the trade deadline happened on Tuesday. We'll recap the fight that wasn't, we should say, between Spence and Crawford, because despite what everybody thinks, it really wasn't much of a fight. We'll also WNBA and UFC and WWE, which probably is even more interesting than the fight. Oh boy, I can go on this all night. The ridiculous moment of the week. I think I just mentioned it. Okay. Yeah, I can go on this all night. Of course, your comments and thoughts are always welcome. The feel-good story of the week, sports trivia, and of course, we'll have our monthly standings for baseball, and of course, our monthly calendar events, because August is another big month, whether you believe it or not. So remember, call 512-543-4662 and pray for me that everything goes well on Saturday, because what I went through today.
It will. It'll
be fine. It'll be alright.
Yep, it will.
It'll be okay. Yep. Alright.
So again, guys, I want to thank my three great co-hosts that come on here every week. Another great week of guests. We've had 3 weeks in a row where we've had awesome guests on, and we have another one next week. I'm working on maybe getting another one either the week after or the week after that. So we'll do that as well. Thank Mitchell for coming on. If you guys want to, you can buy his book. I know that
I might have to do that.
I mean, I think if I looked, but on Amazon, it was like $11 paperback. So it's yeah, it's not expensive to go buy the book or anything like that. But I mean, again, he didn't have to apologize for being sick. It's human.
No.
We all get that way sooner or later. Thanks to anyone that tuned in. I know Bobby and Ashton have commented on Facebook. Thank you guys so much for that. We will be back here next week again. My friend Josh, who is the assistant coach for the Pinellas Park High School Patriots, will be on here discussing Patriot football team and stuff like that. We can ask him questions about that. I could see if I can plug our show, because I didn't even think about that. But maybe we can do that. Maybe every game I can plug this show. But anyway, guys, until then, everyone, please stay safe out there. Thanks to the men and women of our armed services and our first responders. I was at a concert last Saturday, and I don't know if anyone knows who he is, and I'm sure you do know who this guy is. Brantley Gilbert, who is a big country rock artist.
Yes.
You know his music. He said that the true heroes are not athletes, they're not musicians, they're not celebrities, they're our soldiers. And that's what he said he was going to teach his kids, is the true heroes are our soldiers. So again, thanks to them. Thanks to our first responders as well for doing that. Oh, look at that. I like the beverage there, buddy. There we go.
Code red tonight.
I like that. But anyway, until next week, guys, thank you. And we love everyone that tuned in. Until next week, I am the Sportster Bradley Walker. Peace.
Cut, print, send it.
Right.
Guys, excuse me, but I'm going to eat while I'm talking to y'all.
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
Sounds cool to me.